I really wish I talked about this the instant I became aware of it because I do expect that Metaphor ReFantazio is going to be one of the most shilled games of 2024. Perhaps one of the most shilled JRPGs in recent memory. Because I'm already seeing game journals going wild over this one. Oh, it's the best JRPG ever, which in and of itself should 100% be a red flag, right? Like, whenever game journos start celebrating a JRPG, you should know that something is up. And going by like the previews and what people are talking about and like the things leading up to this, like I am 100% certain that this specific Atlus game is going to be the beginning of woke culture being inserted into Atlus RPGs, right? There wasn't a lot of that in Unicorn Overlord. There wasn't any of that in like Persona 5 right back in the day, but like Persona 3 Reload had like a lot of very noticeable changes, and this is going to be the first major game from the studio that will be 100% compromised with woke values. And that is why so many game journals are coming out celebrating this, because they think this is going to be some Baldur's Gate 3 thing. They think this is something that's going to like change JRPGs forever. They think this is going to like move the culture. And because Atlus is like way more popular than Square Enix right now, they might actually get away with it. Like everyone I've seen talking about this, like doesn't really seem to think there's anything up with this at all. Like even 4chan, like they think it's some general thing of just like, oh, like it's just against racism. I think it must have way more than that. Like, I think there has to be something in there that really makes game journos excited at the possibility. Like, at the possibility of utilizing to, like, furthering the message, right? I think the game is significantly more woke than people are expecting. And I'm not going to support the game. I don't have the game on. I'm not going to pick up the game. I'm not going to support it. I don't buy Sega products because Sega has never. Sega's always been like Sega's always been like this, right? It's nothing new or interesting, but this game looks like it's it's not going to live up to the hype. Like, right? It looks like it is going to be DEI infested slop with no real ability to tell an interesting story. And honestly, like the same could be true for like Persona 5, right? You know, Persona 5 was not well written, it wasn't engaging, it was just flashy, and people like freaked out, like, oh, I can actually get a girl to like me. Oh, like again, Persona 5 was lame. It always was. Same for Persona 4, always was. Um yeah, PS2 game in 2008. Like, oh man, it wasn't good. Like, who could have seen that coming? But like, P- PlayStation 4, what like Atlas isn't really in the same position that Square Enix is yet, but considering the influence of Sega and like the general just declining quality of their RPGs over the years, like Soul Hackers 2 and so forth, like I do think it's safe to say that like the company is going to have a similar fall from grace, right? Maybe not to the same extent, because I do think that like Square Enix's problems have been prevalent since like the 90s, ever since they made the evil and incorrect choice of supporting PlayStation over Nintendo 64 and producing Final Fantasy VII for an inferior video game platform, the PS1. Like Square's always been like making like terrible mistakes and going bankrupt and having to be salvaged by their obsessive fans. I don't think Atlas is in the same position. I think that once people catch on to the fact that the games aren't as good as they used to be, like there will be a pretty sudden drop off. It's possible it might even happen with this one. So again, this might be like kind of the awakening moment where people realize that like Atlas is compromised, not to trust anything they put out. By the way, the same trick goes for the Yakuza games. If anything, like Yakuza is probably the single most woke like Japanese franchise on the planet. Like I can't think of anything else that seriously tries to like normalize troons or throwing pronouns in things and like having to deal with like strong independent women. Like Yakuza is a joke. Has been for a long time, but there's this very strong like unwillingness to admit it. Same with Tekken 8, right? Like people don't want to admit that their favorite games have been compromised. And it's leading to this situation where people are surprised that, like, wait a minute, I'm being scammed by Tekken 8. I paid like $90 for the super deluxe digital package or whatever, but I have to pay extra for the stage. It's like it's gonna be things like that that like gradually whittle down all of these like iconic Japanese studios until nothing is left. And yeah, I think Atlus is one of those that's like the least compromised. But I said the same thing about Konami, and I especially said the same thing about Nintendo until just recently. So who knows how long that's gonna last? This might be the release that confirms that like yeah they have officially been compromised. Who knows? But yeah, we do have to like talk about this and address this before it happens. So we don't want another Ghost of Tsushima situation, right? Because we saw this happen with Ghost of Tsushima, where the game came out, it was super woke, and everybody did the same thing where they were just like, well, it's not as woke as The Last of Us Part 2. And then when the sequel gets announced, and lo and behold, Ghost of Yobel is woke, like people act surprised. Like, oh, where did this come from? Like, Ghost of Tsushima was always bad. Okay, we really need to start like addressing this stuff immediately, like zero tolerance. Address concerns right off the gate, not like that idiot Grums, but like actual, real, like genuine concern. Like when I see game journals praise a JRPG, that in and of itself is a red flag, right? Again, I don't trust these people to give any reliable commentary on the genre or its storytelling conventions or on the developers. Like these people don't know anything. So why would I ever take them seriously whatsoever? Again, like it's going to be really interesting seeing like how things develop from here because it seems to be obvious to me that DEI and like the woke agenda is falling apart. You know, similar to how like in 2007 it was still like building up to where it was in 2014. Like it's going to be a long while, I think, until we stop seeing this kind of thing in games entirely, right? Like it's definitely on the way out because of just how badly people react to it and how much they hate it and stuff like that. Um, but it remains to be seen when and how it's going to happen. But until then, like I would very strongly recommend boycott Dragon Quest 3. You know, boycott Yakuza, boycott like Metaphor ReFantazio if necessary, right? You know, you're gonna have to really go out there and show them that this behavior is unacceptable.